Hello, everybody. So it's been a while. Have not made any videos since really the pandemic started. The last time I was here in this video format, I was actually in Colombia, and yeah, I was having fun out there. And I actually started this little stock trading experiment. Remember at the time, I mean, if any of you watched those videos, didn't really know what my goal was, if this was going to be something I would be in for the long term, if it was just going to be a little stint phase that I would move on pretty quickly from. But we are still here. I've actually been steadily doing this the whole time. It's actually been a really nice hobby to have been maintaining during quarantine. Is something I can do totally from the computer. It actually is, it's the perfect quarantine hobby to do, besides like playing music or any other online, web surfing or what have you. I also have my English classes that I teach online, so that's been nice as well. But the stock trading has been fun. This has been a fun, stressful at times, exciting at times journey. But right now, I'd say it's just a pretty pivotal, kind of interesting place to check in. I actually wanted to do this video a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, because I had actually just hit the 6 months day. Like, I had been doing it for exactly 6 months. And it actually coincided with a pretty significant event wherein I actually brought the account back to positive for the first time in many months. But as you can see, it's been quite the journey since I began. I actually was recording videos. I started around February, and I was updating you guys through this early phase, slow going. And the timing of me starting all this was pretty interesting as well, since I started literally a month before one of the bigger stock market sell-off panics that we've had in the last few years, maybe the biggest since 2007, 2008. I got caught right in the middle of that, but it actually ended up being beneficial for me. I really just kind of at that time went into a short the market mentality, and I really just went and looked for every opportunity I could to just short shit. And that also coincided with me discovering options and the madness that those kind of bring about. And really, I was able to take this account from $9,000 to $21,000. So I essentially tripled this thing over the course of, you could see, March 13th to March 18th, about 5 days. So that was, that was some crazy shit. And at the time, your boy thought that he had figured out the secret formula. I thought it was it. I thought I had it. I thought I knew, I thought I was about to run shit up on this fucking market. So I kept the gas pedal on in that direction. I was just going to keep shorting the shit out of this thing. And, well, the market was basically done selling off by that point. And in reality, the best thing I could have done in that situation would have been to stop, slow down, take what profits I had and move them into a long-term, buy up a bunch of the stocks that were now selling at a 30 to 60% discount. Case in point, look no further than stocks like Tesla, the favorite stock even at the time, which had just run up to over $900. During that crash, went from that like $800, $900 all the way back down to 300, which I would show you if, of course, when I'm trying to show you a stock, it doesn't load. But the point being, excuse me, that was the opportunity. And I really just didn't take it. I kept my foot on the gas, trying to, finesse, and I thought I was gonna, run it up. And I gave it back as quickly as I made it. I gave that share right the fuck back. And I mean, it took a little longer to give it back than to make it, although, it seems pretty symmetrical. But yeah, just basically shotgun blasted $10,000 away at options. And really, at the time, if you were to look at the account numbers, I was running up like 80 to 90% options in this little bubble. This options bubble was as big as the stocks bubble, so that tells you a lot. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how dangerous options could be. Your investment can and will go to zero. There's no mercy. And I actually saw that happen with the Netflix trade, where I literally watched $1,700 poof disappear right before my very eyes over the course of literally like 2 days. And that was this right here. Actually, this was the last straw, kind of. Like I said, over the course of 1 day, $1,700, boom, gone. So I actually made a point in that moment that, you know, the situation was getting very bleak. Going from 21,000 down to 5,000 is not, you know, that was a rough spot. But I took that opportunity, that shock. I figured this is the moment where you really have to pivot, switch your strategy, figure it out, or else you're just gonna get, your ass is gonna get clapped out of the market. You're not gonna be able to keep doing this thing. And I wanted to keep doing it. I wanted to get serious. I wanted to at least have, if anything, a long-term portfolio that I could sit on and let grow, and then eventually someday, you know, 10 years down the line, I will have made up whatever money I had lost just with some sorts of you know, relatively safe investments for the long term. So that was the idea. That the onus pivoted towards, let me figure out how to make a long-term account. Let me get some money in this thing that's actually going to work for me for the future. But I needed to keep the option chain intact. Well, I didn't need to, but I figured I wanted to, because I saw how much damage these things could do, how quickly they could swing things for you, both for the good and for the bad. But you have to treat these things with respect, and you have to do it right. And most importantly, you have to balance the budget, manage your ratios, make sure you're not putting all of your account into any one option trade, because even your best option trade, the one that you know is going to work, is the one that evidently is going to go to zero. So keeping that in mind, I grinded along this way. This actually coincided with the last earnings season, which I played relatively conservatively, but I actually was able to make out pretty nicely and dig myself out of the gutter there. And I actually did pop out positive for a second. This was a series of trades. Roku, Nvidia, DraftKings did nicely. Those were all kind of popping back then. Still popping right now. But after that earnings season, things kind of dwindled off. I hung in the pocket. Like I said, I put a lot of money into shares, and so when I was able to get up to like $6,000-7,000 cash, or the equivalent, I basically started buying up the companies that I was most interested in, that I thought could have potential. A lot of them are more on the risky side, but I also wanted to lean towards the future and technology and biology, stuff that I kind of know about, or that I think is going to be there, and obviously that the market thinks is going to be there. But so I went with like stem cell technology, artificial intelligence, computers, e-commerce, cigarette, marijuana technology, cloud, internet security, space, defense and technology, financial technology, artificial intelligence again. Nikola, some of you know about. This is a pump and dump. It says it right there, a dump. But the fact that I was able to have that base, and again, a lot of these are very risky and speculative. However, stocks prices hold. They don't go to zero. That base gives you a foundation, whereas if you have that at the very least, yes, you'll go up, you'll go down, but I still have kind of this base to build off of. And then hopefully, if I do well enough with the limited budget I give myself for options, those will work very well for me, and they'll be able to swing your account, $2, $3, $4,000 over the course of a few days if you're in the right direction, if you're playing the things correctly. Which so far this earnings season has been pretty nice. We've hit a couple of nice ones so far. I would have documented those. I just wasn't in documenting mood at the time for whatever reason, but I wanted to at least get something out there again. And yeah, so we're right in the middle of earnings season once again. Like I said, we did nicely. We actually hit the UPS play because UPS killed it for their earnings. We hit Intel on some puts. That was a very nice one. Intel got crushed during their earnings. What else? We did something with Nikola, which was kind of just a shot in the dark, but that was a fun one. What else? Nvidia, we like to play. Disney, we hit nicely. That was one that I had been watching for a while, since Hamilton came out, and since all of the Disney Plus gained like 100 million subscribers overnight. Ever since that happened, I snagged up the Disney calls and actually ended up playing them again short term, and that ended up working out pretty nicely. So here we are 6 months later. It's been a hell of a journey. You see, this is the original value of the money that I put into the account. Went up to 21,000 shortly thereafter, lost it all and then some, dug my ass out of the gutter, set up the long term, and then we've been riding it out ever since, and here we are in the middle of earnings season. And we'll see where we go from there. This is a opportunity, I think, to really add some strength to this account, bolster the long term. What I just did actually with these first half earnings profits, I took them and I bought up shares of this one company, NIO, which some people have heard about. It's very much a hype stock, but this has to do with the wave of electric vehicle technology that's coming out. NIO is I was going to say Chinese version of Tesla, but they're actually very different than Tesla in that NIO is actually trying to create an entire brand outside of just the electric vehicle technology. Although they have some technology that's very integral and unique to their system, they're creating a whole brand, and they're doing things beyond cars. They're creating hangout spots and like exclusive clubs that people who own the NIO car or are a member of them could take advantage of. But anyway, when Tesla was having its earnings run a few weeks ago, NIO as a sympathy kind of coincided with that, and since then has kind of teetered off. However, they have begun a earnings run up of their own. Now it's kind of the bottom line is that this is going to be, I think, the next good one for earnings. They are going to be reporting next week, August 11th. So I think, what is that, Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, I believe. In the pre-market, we've seen they already have gone up to $16, and right now they're sitting back down at $13.50. On Friday, I went and snagged up 40 shares just because this seems to be a pivotal spot for them. And honestly, after digging into the company a little bit on my own, I think it's I think they have something really there. They actually have a lot of funding support. They're being backed by the Chinese government. The Chinese government's actually making huge moves towards the electric vehicle industry. They are subsidizing which electric vehicle or clean energy provider that they have. I mean, some people would say, don't get into Chinese stocks, don't invest in Chinese companies because they can manipulate data. And like we've seen with Luckin Coffee, they could go from $40 to delisted basically overnight. and that would be an intense loss. Should you have had a lot of money in something like Luckin Coffee, all of a sudden you're down, that entire position is just eliminated overnight. I understand that risk, and it goes with the upsides. You're dealing with an electric vehicle company fully backed by, a government, and they have all these positive aspects about them leaning towards the future. However, you have that overall risk underneath. So the position is it's a solid position, but it's not obviously going to break the bank. I've lost more. I've lost 3 times, 4 times as much on one trade. These are shares. They should hold up. And I think it'll be interesting to watch how it grows at the end of the day. Furthermore, I mean, amidst all the coronavirus, look at my face. The coronavirus obviously has hit many countries all over the world, almost every single country, extremely hard. Look no further than the United States. Shout out USA, baby. But we're getting hit hard as shit. The situation could have been handled better, according to most. The government didn't do its part in making sure the messaging was very clear in what we needed to do in order to beat this thing. So the United States is kind of lagging. However, if you look at like the Asian countries, they seem to be handling this or moving on as if nothing is really happening. I mean, they kind of got their shit together. Meanwhile, over here in the United States and some European countries, we're kind of floundering, not really knowing what to do. Just wear the masks would be the answer, but what can you do? So amidst all this, the earnings and the uncertainty with the pandemic and the economics, who's going to be doing well, who's going to be struggling, who are the winners, who are the losers, honestly, and it's not a popular opinion by American standards, but I think China is going to be a winner out of this. I think Asian countries in general, not just China, but I think Asian countries who handled this pandemic well, that were not able to basically lock down for a week or two, but then basically keep their whole economy active and just wear the masks. I mean, I've spoken with people in South Korea who basically don't even obviously they know the pandemic's still here, but they're going on with life as if the pandemic isn't even there anymore, but just because they've taken care of it so well. The same thing I believe is going on in China. Maybe they're not reporting as many cases as they actually have, but at the end of the day, they're unquestionably handling the situation better than we are. And then, you can go into, well, the virus came out of a lab and they knew about it ahead of time. I mean, that's a lot of, conspiracy stuff. I don't believe it, but, we'll see what happens. We'll have more information 5-10 years from now. All I can do is focus on this current moment. We know what we know. I believe China will have been handling this substantially better than us. I think their companies are going to be looking actually very positive based on the numbers. NIO in particular, and here's their earnings expectation. There are actually some rumors out that they might post a positive earnings for the very first time, and here's the 0. If they happen to do that and they get an earnings beat up around here, that kind of an earnings beat will cause a buying spree on this stock, like, what I was going to say, like we've never seen before, but that's kind of Trumpian. But honestly, we've seen that they could go all the way up to 16, at least in the short term. I think that's even a conservative I was going to say ceiling for them. I think 16 becomes a floor for them, if anything, in the near future. I believe, well, and you can see basically by my exposure here, at the very least, I have the $15 call that expires not next week, but the week after. I wanted to get a little bit of time on all of these just in case. You should always get time. Time is your friend in this options game. You pay for time, right? And so 15 at the very least. This thing goes up to 16 with time. I mean, this contract should be worth, I bought it for about $100, $1.09. Should be worth at least 200, 250 conservatively. I mean, I'm really confident in this play. Like I said, I have a lot of reasoning behind it. And then a couple of leaps here. I got these long. The 17 for about a month about 3 weeks out. Again, I think is realistic for going in the money with a stock like this, and with a proper earnings beat, I think it could happen. And then the 22, I like to cover myself with some cheaper calls, even though you might argue it's not even really cheap considering how far out this is. You're looking for a $10 move on a stock that was trading at $1, not too long ago. But I think the climate has just changed so drastically, and I think the stock prices and the rotations that people are doing are going to reflect kind of strange moves. So I would not be surprised, and I don't think, and that's obviously why the market's pricing it that way. The market wouldn't be surprised either if this thing went to 22 or higher in that span of time. Again, it could be a complete dud. They could shit the bed on earnings, maybe, who knows, and then they end up going down from there. But that's my feeling towards NIO, at least for this week. And then just going along this general trend, I'm also looking at Pinduoduo. They are China's new up-and-coming e-commerce platform. These contracts I bought a couple of weeks ago. This was actually about the time that Amazon reported their earnings, and Amazon absolutely crushed it, which everyone kind of expected. Amazon's way over bloated though, way too expensive, kind of hard to play in that way. Pinduoduo, if you were looking for an e-commerce play, again, people would probably avoid just because of the China situation, but I don't, buying contracts on these doesn't mean I necessarily have to buy the stock. I really could just play the extrinsic and intrinsic moves surrounding events, which is kind of what I'm doing. And I stole these. I really stole these the day after I bought these. I mean, I bought them at 25 bucks a piece. These things were trading all the way up to $1.50 to $2.40 like last week. And I didn't sell them. I'm holding both of them. I actually really do like these just as an earnings play all the way through. And they're late in earnings. We have some Chinese stocks reporting next week. If those end up doing nicely, then this could move. I really could have sold one of these. I do have two. I do have two contracts. Could have sold one. Could have got my initial investment back. I mean, obviously these are still up over 100%. They're at 188%. I could sell one of these for 75 bucks, and my initial investment was 50, so I still net profit on that. But there was kind of a situation earlier where I bought AMD calls that actually, and had I held them through earnings, would have ended up being absolutely killer. Would have made like, I don't even know, between 1,000 and 5,000% on them, if not more. But I actually cut those early off of a similar move like I was just demonstrating. I bought the AMD calls for like 30 bucks a piece, and then I watched them go up to like $1.50 or something, and I was like, oh, that's the money, and I sold them literally like a week before earnings, and the day after I sold them, they end up running up like, another $10, $15, $20. So is Pinduoduo going to do the same thing? No. It's a totally different stock, totally different situation, totally different country. Everything is different. However, just on principle, I bought these as an earnings play. They cover earnings. They have the time. And I want to at least see basically what happens there. I think it could be interesting. So that's that. And also the final one along this China theme is Alibaba. This one I wish I had bought calls on Monday. You say I have the put. This is old, but that was covering some drama. There was some trade war whispers, and in the event of some sanctions or something, along those lines, the Chinese stocks could have gotten, hit pretty hard. So that was a little bit of insurance on the downside. But Baba, in the midst of all these, is I think one of the more interesting ones. Again, e-commerce, and from what I know, Alibaba does a lot in what would it be, like contracting, or I know a contractor. I know many contractors buy housing supplies and like lots of big lumber and materials and shit like that, and Alibaba, in a weird way, ties into the whole real estate boom that's going on. I mean, if a lot of people are buying up properties, and then with buying up properties, they're fixing up properties, developing properties, all things along this line, I think Baba could actually be a huge surpriser, as like a double whammy, as in the real estate and the e-commerce in a kind of combo, and in addition to the fact that so many people would be avoiding, again, Chinese companies, Chinese stocks, just for the reason that it's inherently risky, because you don't know about the reporting, you don't know if they're being honest, or again, the Luckin example is the perfect example. So many investors probably have been ignoring this or avoiding it for a while. Is this the time where they prove that, hey, you can't ignore us, you have to buy us? And this stock is probably way undervalued as is. I mean, they were heading up to, well, yeah, pushing 230 during their last earnings run before the little crash here, and they have not poked that far ahead. $30 up since then is really nothing if you look at what Amazon's done. And Alibaba is huge. That's a huge, big boat, big galoot of a company. So I don't have any plays on that yet besides the put, but I don't really like that. The option, the call options are looking a little cheap. They're looking a little cheap. Hopefully they don't run up in the morning. Hopefully people don't realize over the weekend that they want Alibaba stock, and this goes up to like 280 by tomorrow. If they're up a little bit, I'll buy them. If they're down, I'll go crazy and buy more. If they're up too much, I might just leave it alone. But because their earnings are, oh, wait a minute, not until August 20th. Oh shit, I actually have a lot more time on this one than I thought, so that's interesting. But we will be paying very close attention to Alibaba. Alrighty, my computer is about to die. I'm seeing that, and so that will be where I wrap this one up. So that's it, basically an update. There's a couple more earnings plays that we could talk about, but maybe I'll make that in a separate video. I really just wanted to do an overall update, where I'm at, where I've been, where we're going, and let you know, just give you the update on where my head's at as far as this earnings. It's kind of a Chinese themed episode, while wearing a USA t-shirt. Let's go, baby. But that's where I think the opportunity is right now. That's the way I see it. And I could be wrong, but we will see, how these things shape up and ship out. And at any rate, that'll do it. And I hope you have a lovely week. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.